My name is Tinisha Brignoni. I am a filmmaker, cook, and gardener, determined to show you what real Detroiters are thinking and doing. This is Candidly Speaking. This week on Candidly Speaking,
I was in the Persian Gulf War, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and got out of there.
Hello, welcome to Candidly Speaking. I'm glad you were able to join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's it.
I'm glad to be here.
Are you excited? Or?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm
cool,
excited to be
cool.
here. This is a wonderful thing that you're doing for the various artists and activists and whatnot in Detroit.
Right.
And I thought it was quite interesting when I reviewed some of the shows you had before.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a musician. I wouldn't really consider myself a musician as much as I consider myself a musical explorer and a poet, or as I would like to say, a wordsmith. The music I do is very experimental and explorative.
What kind of music are you into?
I would say new jazz, what we call Aether Fusion Abstract with my group Epiphanies of Sound. I do a little of what I call island vibe. It's kind of like reggae, it's kind of like dub, but it's like a jazz vibe to it.
So it's your own little special mix. Okay. Instrument knowledge? Did you go to school for that, or is it just something
Well,
you picked
a
up?
little bit of both. I took piano lessons from age 6 to 12. My mother, Melita Cross, my birth name, Adriel Cross, she sent me the lessons from age 6 to 12, and that's where I got my classical training, my bass in music. And I didn't pick up instruments from age 12 until I got in my 30s again. My father put a keyboard in the house. He bought one. And I was like, what did he put that in there? I know he's not going to play it. He used to just walk by it and look at me and smile.
Really?
And then one day I said, hey, Pops, can I play that? He said, yeah, go ahead. You know, and from then on, a lot of new stuff started coming out of me.
All right, Bilal, let's get this meal going. Now, what do you need me to do?
All right, this is a electric meal we making here, and I say that because it has the colors of the electromagnetic spectrum. And what I have here is some Saigon cinnamon, some crushed red pepper, and a little something chili and garlic, and some sweet and sour. Okay. And some turmeric. And so we're going to put all that together and stir fry it and make a delicious meal. I used to do air band at the poetry venues. Like I would say a poem and I would do a little scatting with it. I'd be like, doo-dee-dee-dee-dee. And I said, I want to learn how to play trumpet for real, because Miles Davis was my favorite. And I picked up trumpet. I just went to a pawn shop and bought me a trumpet and taught myself how to play it.
Now be careful, that knife is very sharp, just so you know.
Yeah, I see.
You signed a waiver too, so.
Yeah, I see. It's good that it's sharp, because you can do what you need to do with it.
Right, in less amount of time.
And so, you know, I like these kind of meals because you have all the colors that you need in the dish, and it's pleasing to the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very flavorful as well. I was in the Persian Gulf War, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. After I did 5 years active duty in the Navy, I did like 10 years active duty in the Nation. Then that's when I got into poetry and music and art and everything from there.
So, what was your experience like in the service, the armed forces?
The military was exciting. I worked as a gun mount captain. I was on the 3-inch 50 gun mount, and kind of an antiquated gun. It wasn't the biggest gun in the Navy, but it was the loudest.
Right. So, are you a gun enthusiast? How do you feel about
I
the
used to
issues
be.
with
I
guns
used
now?
to be. I used to be into weapons. I used to be. I believe people have the right to bear arms, but I don't think it's necessary because I believe the greatest weapon you have is your mind. Now when it comes to animals, it's kind of a little difficult to reason with animals. But human beings, you can reason with human beings.
Some human beings,
some,
you can't reason with some of these folks.
I believe most of them you can if you appeal to their innermost nature and not their ego. And when I cook, I like a lot of color in my food because I just like to look at all of it and feel the energy.
Right.
So.
And that's a great way, and I've said this many times, to show if the dish is healthy.
Right.
Because the more colors you have represented, that actually shows you the different vitamins that you need.
Right. Right. So what we have here is we got some purple cabbage, yellow squash, pea pods, colored peppers, and a sweet onion. And these should all blend in good for a stir fry. Worth your palatable pleasure.
Now, you said you work at the VA?
Yes.
Okay. What type of work do you do there?
Well, right now I'm a room service host. I work in the hospital kitchen, and I deliver veterans their meals. And I also volunteer there on my off days. I play my music for the veterans, their family, and the employees. Did a little bit of home healing vibration music, like with Hip and Zen with Rashawn Foster. And I was trying to get more into that, like with nursing homes and centers and stuff like that, to bring about a peace and calm to people in their environment. I was playing one day and a gentleman came up to me. He said, "I just got some bad news about cancer. And when I heard your music out here, I came down and sat down. It made me feel a whole lot better." So from that alone, I said my mission is accomplished if that's what is providing for people. My father was a cook in the Navy, and he taught me how to cook for, great quantities of people, large amounts of food. And at his mission on Tuesdays, every Tuesday they have a meal for the homeless and whatnot. And he used to cook. He showed me some of his secrets of how he cooked in the kitchen there. I mostly do live broadcasts from my home, or AKA the 16th Note, that I named it. With
That's what you named your home?
my studio. And
you got a thing with names. I know you mentioned that you have more than one name.
Right.
Tell us about your names.
Well, okay. My birth name is Adriel Meyer Cross, and that's my legal name. And I took on other names through different various evolutions of my life.
Right.
And then I became Bilal when I was in the Nation. I used to do the call to prayer, and I picked the name Bilal, Malik Mutawasim, and then I wrote some poetry books under that name. And then as I developed with that, I became Detroit Bleu, because it was more of a spiritual move for me to go into the arts and be more of an expressionist into the spiritual realms of my mind. And then Aether Bleu, I didn't want to limit myself to Detroit because I wanted to be connected to the very fabric of all there is that exists. So I became Aether Bleu.
Now, do you want me to cut these any particular way, or
Like with those,
slices, or
we can use the red and the yellow. I'm not too particular
orange?
about the green.
What? Okay.
Because it has a more pungent
Gotcha.
flavor. I use green, and when I'm like if you're making an Italian dish or pasta or something like that.
How many names do you have?
Oh, too many to
Is there a lot of
mention.
personalities in there too?
Well, yeah, there is. You know,
Yeah.
and that's where I've had my challenges, my mental challenges, and what I do is wherever it's like when you reach a certain point of understanding of yourself, I put a pin in it, then I name it.
Cool.
You know, so Bilal was a certain understanding, you know, which is another acronym, believe in, love, and learn. And that's where I dealt with that. And then dealing with the ethers, I really got in touch with the ancestors and the ascendants, and as I could say, the ancestor stars, you know.
Right.
And the cosmos, which is KOS, knowledge of self, master of self, or knowledge of self, master, or savior, you know. You slice as close to the head as you can and cut that off, and then clear out the center.
I'm gonna step back. Give you room.
Pull that out. Now this is what you can do when you make stuffed peppers. You know, you cut out the center and whatnot.
Because I feel like, me personally, I don't see how anybody could just be the same person all the time,
You're
all their
not.
life. Like, people be like, I'm the same, da da da. I know I'm not the same. I can look at me on different episodes and see different people, see different personalities.
Yeah,
I just embrace it. You know?
I just put it on the surface. Most people don't put it on the surface. They're
Right.
more hidden with it, you know. I put it on the surface because I just like to wear it out like that,
Right.
so that I can know who is what. When I do different music vibrations, most of the time, like if I'm doing something abstract or whatever, that might be a deeper meaning name. And then if it kind of crosses all of the streams of the names, then I just put it under Aether Bleu.
Okay.
You know, because that covers
Cover
all
everybody,
whoever
right.
it is. That's who it is.
That's
you
cool.
know.
That's a good way of balancing out everything. I feel like you have like you basically figured out how to be you and navigate through this world.
Right.
So that's really cool.
Right. It's complicated, but it's simple. You know, and
exactly.
I just, you know, learning how to deal with it. You know, I have my demons as well as anybody else, and I just choose to let them work for me instead of me working for them working me.
All right, Bilal, Detroit Bleu, Aether. Those are the only ones I remember.
I always, somebody asked me once, they said, what if a lot of people, different people knew you by different names and they all were in the room and called you different names? How would you answer?
Right.
I said, I've had that happen before, and I've responded to all of them. I said,
right?
You can call me anything, just don't call me late for dinner, though.
Right. All right, Bilal. So tell us about your dish.
All right, this dish has a little bit of Asian influence, but it's just like your garden, you know, whatever you have the garden, or vegetables you pick up from the grocery store, just to make something quick and delicious. Because she knows me too well.
So what do we call it?
We gonna call this one Electric Boogie. Transfigured in the square root of X.
So I see you have chopsticks. I don't know how to use chopsticks, so I'm gonna stick with the
It's
fork.
real simple.
Blue like a flickering candle flame.
Your index, your middle finger, and your baby finger. Your next to middle finger. and your
You sit next
index
to the middle finger.
and your index finger, and you use your thumb and your middle finger and your index finger as leverage, and you just use it just like the tongs. It's like you make a fulcrum, and you use the tongs, and then
Take your break. I'm gonna use this for
that's a good thing
I've been
too.
trying for years and I don't
Yep.
get it.
There
so.
you go.
All right.
Ketchup stain, living as a tomato plant. Greasy like a coney dog,
delicious.
regular with coffee. If I spoke ant, they would make
So-
me king.
Very
Stop
different.
them boric acid trips. If I was ultra suede, I would rise up.